Chief of Boating Industry. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Reaching New Markets. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Top 100 Leadership Alliance, the companies that support the Top 100 program, recognizing the best boat dealers in North America. Those companies are GE, Capital Commercial Distribution Finance, Manheim Specialty Auctions, Volvo Penta, Sunbrella Marine, Brunswick Dealer Advantage, and the Marine Retailers Association of the Americas. And there's still time to apply for this year's Top 100. And applications are available at boatingindustry.com/top100/application. And those applications are due June 22nd. Now on to our topic for the day. It's no exaggeration to say we are in the midst of major demographic shifts in the United States. What the average American looks like, where they live, and how they behave are all changing at a rapid pace. With these changes in generations, race, and ethnicity, it also means a much different target audience for boating. We've got a great panel of dealers today who will share their experiences reaching out to new markets. First, we'll have Raul Bermudez from MarineMax, Lou Sandoval, owner of Karma Yacht Sales in Chicago, Rob Yalker, owner of the Sportsman of San Benito, Texas. And after they speak, we'll have time for a Q&A session with our panelists at the end of the webinar. Feel free to submit your questions throughout the session through the GoToMeeting module on your screen. Before we hand off to the panelists, I'm going to provide a little background on the topic to help set the stage. The population of the United States is getting younger and more diverse. This year, millennials will surpass the baby boomers as the largest living generation, according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau. By the end of 2015, there will be an estimated 75.3 million millennials compared to 74.9 million boomers, and that population will peak at 81.8 million in 2036. Most boat buyers are still baby boomers, and the average buyer age continues to rise, as shown by Infolink's analysis of registration data. Although 2014 data shows some flattening of those increases, it's too early to say if that is a long-term trend. And finally, the younger generations are also more diverse. Only 59% of millennials and 62% of Xers are white, significantly lower than the 79% of silent generation and 73% of baby boomers. The Hispanic population makes up the largest and fastest growing portion of that non-white population, representing 24% of those under 18 and 17% of the total population. You can see more info on these topics in the April issue of Boating Industry or online at boatingindustry.com/newmarkets. And now we're going to hear from our dealers on how they're working to bring more women, younger buyers, and more diversity in general into their dealerships. And first we are going to hear from, first we're going to hear from Raul. Raul, go ahead.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you. A quick bio. First of all, my experience, I'm one of the vice presidents of MarineMax. I'm originally from Colombia, South America. Moved to the States at 12. Been boating all my life and love MarineMax. And I was actually a customer of MarineMax before I joined the company. And we're going to talk about some of the programs that MarineMax has that enticed me into buying a boat from MarineMax. So we'll go through that. So we're going to talk about one of the things MarineMax does, which is getaways. You'll see through the three different topics that I'm going to talk about, it's all about making sure that people enjoy themselves on the water. And definitely there's a big connection also in families. So I'll talk about MarineMax getaways, women on water courses, which my wife has participated in, kids and boating. A couple of my kids have gone through some of those. And then also the division that I run, which is MarineMax Vacations. MarineMax Getaways, it was designed to not just sell a boat, but actually encourage people, especially beginners, to use their boat and to meet other people that have the boating gene, or not necessarily. In fact, a lot of the trips could be day trips, and they encourage boaters to bring family member, other friends and families with them to enjoy the boating lifestyle, to learn more about it. It's all about being in the water with family and friends. So this is a great way. Some of the trips could be one day or just out to the local island and come back. Other trips are overnights. In fact, they're doing a Bahamas trip right now for 2 weeks. So it's all about education and making sure people enjoy themselves in the water. You'll notice from the pictures too, it's all about families connecting. Um, the Women on Water course has been a huge success. All the stores of MarineMax offer these courses. One of the things I want to point out too is MarineMax offers these courses whether you own a boat from them or not, even if you've never purchased anything from them. It's a great way for women to learn, the terms from a professional. They're not getting yelled at, right? When typically you're going to boat and you've seen them out there when somebody's yelling at somebody to get the lines or go to starboard or port side, and you just get that stare. So this program is fantastic. It's designed to learn how to, some of the terms, learn how to operate the boat even. And it's just women in the course. My wife, one of the reasons we bought the boat from MarineMax, we've all been boating, but we had never purchased a boat until we purchased that one from MarineMax, was because they had this course. She said, you know what, we're going to take the course, so you're not the only one that knows how to drive the boat. And it was fantastic. She came back much more confident about operating the boat. There was no yelling, no pressure. It's a fantastic way to introduce more people, right? The more confident you feel about doing something, the more you're going to enjoy it. MarineMax has over 1,500 women a year that go through these courses. And in fact, they become friends, a lot of them at those courses, and they end up coming back and going on the getaways. So you can see that there's a progression to it. So it's all about educating with, other women in course, professional, and it's, again, one of the reasons I personally purchased a boat from MarineMax. The next slide also talks about some of the things I learned. I learned, basic terminology, line handling, how to tie a knot, docking, operations. And again, it's free. And all you have to do is go online and actually the closest store to you and look on the schedule when they have these courses. So we've learned also that the women actually are probably more than 50% are the drivers on what boat is purchased and if you even purchase a boat. So it's for us, it's been a big success and a key factor in growing just the boating market in general. The other one is the MarineMax Kids in Boating courses. Similar to Women in Boating, it's just kids in the classroom. They learn about boating, they learn about docking. You should see their smiles, their faces. They get a certificate at the end. And same thing, I put my kids through that course, and not only do they feel more confident, but I feel more confident in letting them take the wheel and driving around. And it's incredible the confidence they build, how much happier we're all on the water. Because they actually now know how to learn, even if it's put a fender out, they know how to do that, and they feel like it's their, hey, I know how to do this, I can help Dad. And again, a lot of the things you'll see here, the younger they are, the more likely they're going to be boating when they're later on. In fact, when my kid, when we purchased the boat, it was maybe 9 years old, and he just recently bought his own boat. He's 19 now and purchased his own boat. He and his girlfriend purchased his own boat. So the younger they start, they're more likely they're going to be boaters when they get older. And then the other thing we're doing at MarineMax is the division that I run is the vacations division. And this allows boaters, especially in the winter months, if they're up north, allows them to go boating, and another way to go vacation, doing what everybody loves down in the British Virgin Islands or whatever island we operate out of. But it's another great vacation. I can tell you from experience that we've gone on ski vacations, we've gone different places, and the one vacation that my kids want to go on is a boating vacation in the British Virgin Islands. It is the one time, and all my kids are teenagers now, except for one, that we don't argue, we don't fight about what we're going to do next, and it's fantastic. So again, it's a continuation of how do you enjoy the family doing what you all like. Boating, of course, it's all about spending time, quality time with friends and family. So if you see the theme here, it's more about, education. The more educated they are about boating and handling of a boat, the more fun people are going to have. The more fun you have, the longer you'll do that activity. And it's worked out perfect for MarineMax. So it's just a short piece of a presentation here, but if you have any other questions, feel free to look me up and call me at MarineMax.
Great. Thanks, Raul. We're going to go ahead now and hand it off to our second panelist, Lou Sandoval at Karma Yacht Sales, and he'll tell us a little bit about what they are doing down in Chicago.
Thank you, Jonathan. Hello, everyone. This is kind of wanted to intend this as a conversation to make sure I get myself forward here. It's a conversation more to help share knowledge on what our business has done and what we've learned over the last 13 years of being around. When we purchased our boat dealership in 2002, my business partner and I came into the marine industry from other business markets, and that fresh perspective from two 37-year-olds kind of offered us a pretty unique vantage point. We were definitely looked at as the young kids on the block in all forms and shapes. So it offered us a great way of not having to succumb to the, all right, well, we've done this before mindset that seems to be often the case. Before I kind of go into the presentation as well, I wanted to just give a little background on myself. I've been in the boating industry now for well over 15 years. Prior to that, I did 17 years in marketing and sales and working for various different Fortune 50 companies. My exposure to the boating industry came in. I came in like Raul. I came in as a customer, bought a boat, and that kind of led to just a variety of different opportunities. But my original exposure started as a kid in Boy Scouts. So I think Raul touched a little bit on that about the early having the kids get the genes early for the water, and I think I can't echo that enough. I also have two daughters, ages 6 and 8. They've been swimming since they were 4 and 6 months, and they've been boating since taking sailing lessons and the like since they were 5. And our family looks at boating as a family-based activity. So the business case for this discussion, in terms of reaching out to a younger demographic, we noticed in 2002 when we bought the business that many of the customers in the customer base in our area were in their 5th and 6th decade of life. And they basically had a mean age of about 58, which is a little bit higher than what we see now in the industry numbers. We knew that it was a critical issue that we needed to focus on in decreasing that mean. It took us about 6 years to accomplish that major drop. Our mean age now is about 53 with a range of 40 to 68. And so you're probably kind of wondering why this whole Fountain of Youth reference. Obviously we know a little bit about Juan Ponce de Leon. He was a 15th century explorer who discovered Florida, and as legend has it, he did so while searching for the Fountain of Youth. While it appears by some of the demographics in Florida that fountain still goes a little undiscovered, it's a metaphor for what marine dealers in the industry can discover by focusing on attracting the younger demographic. When you look at the American population, the fact that we're retiring about 10,000 baby boomers that are hitting the age of 65 on a daily basis. When you're looking at the figures that Pew Research puts out, the boating industry can't find a younger demographic soon enough. And try to advance the slide. So for conversation starters today, I think a lot of this starts up by reflecting on where we're at as an industry. when you really kind of, if you were just to do a real simple Google for imagery of what our sport is looked at, if you were to just Google older couple on a boat, you see 1,000 different graphics that come up, or couples on boats or sailing or boating. It'll conjure up that the ever-present Viagra commercial, which shows a gentleman in his fifth decade of life, out for sale, and then repairing his vessel and going home to his wife. And it may also conjure up several investment ads for the financial services industry, where a boat is looked at as the pinnacle of somebody's financial success. Obviously that's the imagery that's controlled outside of us, outside of our industry, but often perception becomes a reality. So, to get this all started, we kind of have to ask ourselves as dealers and stakeholders, what is the average age of the boat buyers in our dealerships? Do we know? Do we even measure that? Are we doing outbound surveys? Are we doing SurveyMonkey, or are you having them fill out customer demographic cards after they're purchased? That kind of helps you identify their range. Obviously, sometimes through our F&I departments, we're able to find out those ranges or make assumptions, but it's really good to get a firm hold on that data. The other aspect of useful information is what is the percentage of women boaters, or better yet, women buying boats in our dealerships. That's another telltale sign. That seems to be very generational, but in order for us to kind of continue to bring in a fountain of youth into our businesses, we're going to need to make sure that we address that demographic issue. And then what is the entry-level boat size? What is the price range? Are we offering other alternatives for people to get out on the water? I'll be first to admit that when we look at some of the national numbers since we started to see an uptick in the recovery, the current trend is shifting towards larger boats. But in my personal opinion is that we really haven't addressed that issue as an industry, but there's steps in place, and I guess it's going to take a little bit of time. We've all heard of the challenges facing the industry. We've got an aging core market. The slide kind of addresses the fact that we've got a lot of the average age. In 1997, we had an average age of about 47, and they were mostly males. When we look at the perception versus the reality of our business, and that is that our client base is still mostly male, with about a 55-year-old constituency base. So it's going to be very important that we continue to shift that curve to the left and add a little more gender and obviously a little more ethnic diversity to a lot of that. Next slide. All right. When we look at it, you got to have to look at it in terms of a five-year range, because for anything to kind of really take impact, it's going to take us about 3 to 5 years. So when we sought out to do a lot of this, we basically looked at it in a 5-year increment. With the shift towards an aging population, we have to focus on that sweet spot, and that sweet spot for boat ownership is someone that's in their mid to late 40s, or possibly in their early 50s. So the quicker we are able to shift that buying age down, the better it's going to be for our industry. And obviously we all know the impact that the recent recession has had on a lot of the Gen X boat buyers or sections of American demographics. And those are, just as a refresher, Gen X are those born between 1964 and 1979. And then, you heard Jonathan's impact of the millennial crowd, and that those are those born after 1980. But the shift in buying patterns for millennials is forcing the industry to affect this fountain of youth type of issue, and the fact that we need to grow younger a lot quicker. So let me move to the next slide. So we can look at this. Any growth strategy you have to look at as a mindset, and it has to be embraced by everybody inside your dealership or inside your business, inside the manufacturing realm. But we can look at a lot of the data that's coming out and as a doom and gloom, or we can put a strategy around it and look at it as an opportunity. But we have to adopt a mindset that we're basically, you have to attract, you would basically attract who you are. And if you're not looking to diversify your sales team or bring in a younger sales team with different approaches, we're going to continue to attract those that that have been there all along, and obviously people like, and it's a basis of human nature. People like doing business with people that they feel comfortable with. I mean, we can probably all remember when we were 30, and the mindset of don't trust anybody over 30. So we want to make sure that we do have a younger base. Try to give some people opportunities through internships and different opportunities to kind of get involved in the business from a sales perspective, a marketing perspective, or even in the service arena. We have to provide, continue to provide avenues for new market engagement and discovery. And so some of the things we did is, we went after getting a younger sales team, having some sales people that were, diverse. We had some young ladies that came in and helped work with us. They started out working shows, and then eventually, got involved a little bit deeper in the sales cycle of things. But also providing avenues for new market engagement and discovery. And we're all kind of topped off a little bit of some of the things that we've done as well. But the biggest focus is that looking at the retention of boat owners is probably as important as the growth. And any opportunity that we can do within our dealerships to get those individuals involved in different activities. We've heard in the NMMA numbers that anybody over and that getting boat usage above 21 days is important, and any way that we can do to grow those people's use of their boats is going to keep them in those boats and obviously facilitate continued growth and expansion of the industry. And there's some great resources out there for opportunities and imagery that we can use, and just ideas. There's obviously Grow Boating, which is an industry-wide initiative. NMMA has a lot of resources on their website, and then the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation has some great resources to get people out on the water on the power end of things, and even on sailboats. Fishing is a great way to get people out using their boats. They have a Take Me Fishing website, and its Hispanic counterpart, Vamos a Pescar, which is another opportunity to kind of, help share resources and get people out on their boats. Switching slides here. So we have to kind of look at, a lot of this journey starts by reflecting. We talked about having our sales team reflect our target market, having affordable models or a diverse platform of models that help get people into the market and have them get involved in getting out on the water, and then making sure that our offerings are family friendly. Are we able to get activities around our dealerships or in our businesses that offer a family-friendly approach? You saw some of the things that MarineMax is doing. We've done some similar things. The other aspect is, does your manufacturer's photography show young families using the products? If not, in a lot of your local advertising, you may want to focus on showing younger people using the product, or showing families in the cockpits enjoying the boats. People have sometimes, we have a tendency as human beings to be a little visually challenged. If we can't see the opportunity, we don't pursue it. So making sure that the customer feels comfortable in that. And some of the photos that I've used in the slide are some that have been brought on by National Marine Manufacturers Association through the Discover Boating and the Grow Boating program. They have a cadre of different slides and imagery that we can use. If you don't have access to that, I would also probably prompt your manufacturers to start taking more diverse photographs and using them in their imagery. Next slide. When we get into customer affinity events, again, using rendezvous as an opportunity to get customers together of different age ranges to share ideas, share experiences. Customers have a tendency to gravitate around a brand. We've seen this done very effectively in car brands, but boat brands can do the same thing too. Owners clubs that get together on a frequent basis here in the Northern Hemisphere. Obviously, in the winter months, it helps keep people engaged and feel like they're part of a community. Open houses are also very useful at our dealerships. Open houses that basically provide speakers or skill-based assets to help people develop their knowledge of their vessels, be it whatever aspect, diesel mechanics, very light repair, or do-it-yourself type projects. that give them an opportunity to associate with the brand. And then friendly on the water events that get them out. The photos that I've got on there are of a Beneteau Cup / Three Crib Fiasco that we did last year in August. And our primary focus was to get people out in a pursuit style event where they were able to not feel the pressure of a crunch starting line for a sailboat race, which can get a lot of people with who may not be accustomed to getting out of the water. It may be a little bit of an inhibition for them. So we wanted to make sure that we brought a lot of people that hadn't been out on the boats. As you see by some of the photographs, these are very atypical boats out sailing. They have Bimini's, they have Dodgers, very much traditional cruisers. But for many of the people that participated, the biggest feedback that they provided was that they were able to, get their boat out and sail with a purpose, or get out and boat with a purpose. So any opportunities that you're able to provide for getting people out and having them boat with a purpose is going to help keep people engaged and keep them happy in their vessels. On the power side of things, poker runs or predicted log type of events, or just meetups where people are able to get together and do a river cruise. I know here in Chicago we have a lot of restaurants along the river that allow people to get down and shore up alongside and go up and have dinner and then come out and leave the locks. Our city's invested a lot in the waterway along the river to provide more of a user-friendly type of approach for boaters. So those are all great opportunities to get people out, have them go to a destination, have them spend more time on their boats. Let's see, next slide. So again, family-focused events, any activity-based engagement, making sure that you get people out using their vessels, fleet cruises, dock parties, family-friendly events. Again, the more we get kids involved with their parents, the better it's going to be for everybody in terms of just getting them out there and having them feel like the boat is a natural thing to do. It may seem a little bit counter sales, counter to their mindset in sales, but I often have that conversation with customers when they want to put that big, large flat panel TV and say, listen, do you really want to put that large flat panel in the boat? Well, because sometimes the opportunity to be on a boat is an opportunity to get away from a lot of those things that seem to kind of keep us busy and entrapped on land. So, again, it's having those reality-based conversations. Using the boat as a departure from what we do daily is a great way of getting people out into a different environment where they're able to commune and spend time with each other. Next slide. Like any type of strategy, it's an investment strategy, and I think often as business owners and dealers and or salespeople, we get focused on, all right, so what type of results is this going to produce for me today? We obviously need to drive sales. We need to get people here today. So, and I'm not asking you to, by any means, to depart from any outreach to your current boater buyer base that you have, but like any investment strategy, the concepts are to look at this, and it's going to require a lot of patience. It's going to require a little bit of hand-holding, and like many investments, that are financial in nature, they're best dealt with by making the commitment and then nurturing them and letting them grow. It's going to take time. You're going to need to check in continually, but more importantly, you're going to need to measure what you expect, and that's going to require using surveys, customer feedback sessions. We've also employed focus groups where we've basically taken buyers in certain age demographics and asked them what would they like to see more of, and help them shape the type of activities that we do, or the type of speakers, or the type of seminars that we run, because that's probably the best avenue for getting more people like that out there. And then, of course, like any strategy, you're going to need to kind of check in and adjust as needed. So this is the gist of what we've been able to do. We'll have opportunity for questions and answer afterwards, but I'd just like to say thanks to Boating Industry for the opportunity of kind of sharing this.
All right, great. Lou, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and move on to our third panelist. Rob, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. I want to say that I'm honored to have an audience that's taken the time out of their busy day to ring up and to listen and to learn, and so there's not many of you out there that do that often enough, and I just want to say congratulations to you guys. You're looking to improve yourself. So Jonathan asked me if I would speak on marketing to ethnic groups, specifically the Hispanic population. So when Jonathan called me, I said, well, our dealership is located in very deep South Texas. We're located on the Mexican border. We're just 15 minutes from the Mexican border town of Matamoros, and we're just 30 minutes from the Gulf of Mexico. So yes, the cartel's close by, and when you drive by the border, you can sometimes hear them shooting at each other across the river. Interesting area. So my market is totally Hispanic. In fact, 90% of our population in deep South Texas along the border, as you can imagine, is 90% Hispanic. So it's the only market we have, and it's the only market that we know, but we know it well. So what I'd like to do today is to give you some ideas of how to approach and increase your market share by approaching different ethnic groups in your area. Specifically, I'll be talking about the Hispanic, but these ideas and suggestions I might give you today could apply to almost any ethnic group. So let me set the stage first with the Hispanic population. As Jonathan said earlier in the conversation, 17% of the U.S. population is now Hispanic. In fact, 29% of the western U.S. is Hispanic. So those are some big numbers. It represents 53 million Latinos in the U.S. as compared to 44 African Americans and 18.9 million Asians. So it kind of gives you a picture of the big market. So if I was to say, well, what one thing would you do? Let's cut to the chase. What one thing would I tell you to do to begin penetrating an ethical market? And I would say, have somebody on your staff that speaks Spanish. Okay, because let's back up a second. Let's say in the perfect world, our sales approach would be, we don't care what color you are. We don't care your ethnic background. We don't care about your beliefs, because our sales staff and our staff focuses on the basic human needs of trust and respect and caring about each other and being heard. And that would be the perfect world, but we're in the real world. And the real world is that we do judge others. And so we have two ethnic groups coming together. How do you bring them together? And again, the key ingredient is to have an Hispanic staff member that can immediately relate to the Latino that walks through your door. And in general, and this is a real general term, but again, we have a lot of experience with the Hispanic culture, is they have a tendency to have a preconceived notion of discrimination. You can kind of, a little chip on their shoulder maybe, and again, this is in general terms, not everybody. But with that in mind, you need to hit them with the first impression of somebody they can trust, somebody they feel comfortable with right away. So again, to cut to the chase, it would be a person that they can relate to immediately. Now, that staff member shouldn't just be the only staff member. Hopefully, you'd be on your sales team, but that frontline person should also be training the rest of your staff on specific cultural nuances of that particular ethnic group. So you become comfortable with somebody that doesn't look quite like you, doesn't have the same skin color, and maybe the beliefs are a little bit different, but that has nothing to do with you taking care of their basic needs and giving them your full undivided attention. In the Hispanic population, these are some keys too. La familia, as it sounds, it's about the family. It's very important to this culture. In fact, we all have dysfunctional families. Some of us have it to bigger degrees than others, but you can take a very dysfunctional Mexican-American family and have some kind of a celebration, a family get-together, and all that goes out the door. They're hugging each other. They really care about each other. That all goes out the door, and it's a whole different atmosphere when you get the family together, because it's about family. So what does that mean? Well, as we market to those Hispanic populations, we're looking at doing a lot of family get-togethers, presentations focused on the family. If the family's coming in during your presentation, you take the time to say hello to the kids and to grandma and grandpa and whoever else is with the group at the time, because that's important to them. You'd market to a good number of Hispanic celebrations. They have a bunch of them. They can celebrate everything. But it's important to them, and they bring themselves together again as a group and as a family. Everybody's probably heard of Cinco de Mayo. That's their Independence Day. It's a big celebration. They take a week off from everything to just party and have fun and celebrate and get together. But that is an opportunity to put your dealership in front of that celebration, that marketing opportunity. Because all we're trying to do here is we're trying to be a part of them so they feel like they can be a part of us. You could sponsor booths at again, the many Hispanic celebrations in their neighborhoods. The fiestas they have, a small booth, just your name out, just hanging out means a lot to them. Again, remember, we're trying to build trust and respect, and a little bit more direct marketing and advertising. You may put a Spanish tab on your website. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Spanish, but again, we're thinking of you, and it could be again pictures of lifestyle pictures of their families, Hispanic lifestyle pictures, and things that pictures of fiestas, that sort of thing, to make them feel like they're part of it. You could market to current Hispanic trends. What's going on in their group right now, in that group of people? To just find out what's going on, focus on it, be a part of that. You could create billboards in Spanish, again, emphasizing the Hispanic lifestyle, and put it in the more Hispanic neighborhoods in the area. And obviously, you could pick out predominantly Hispanic radio and cable TV channels and advertise directly there. So a little bit of all of this would put you into their arena. So another key, and this is the key to maintaining and growing an Hispanic following, and it's all again, it's tied to family ties. In other words, you want them to feel like you're part of their family through trust and respect and the things I've suggested to you here. Because once you gain their confidence and respect of just one of them, they go out and tell the masses, go to that dealership. They made me feel welcome. In Spanish, it's called compadrísimo, which means it's compadre. The dealership is my compadre. And there's no better advertising than third-party endorsements. You can spend a fortune trying to get them to come in the door, but once they trust and respect you, and the word gets out by the third party, their friends and their family members, they'll be walking in the door wanting to buy boats from you. So that's it. That's what I have. Thank you so much.
Great, Rob. Thank you. We're going to go ahead now and open it up to questions. Again, you can ask those questions right there on your GoToWebinar module where it says questions. Just type your question in there and we'll try to answer them. One thing I know some people have asked about is if an archived version of this will be available. Yes, the address is right there at the bottom of your screen. The webinar will be available at boatingindustry.com/webinars probably tomorrow morning. And then you can also, you'll be able to access that as well as any of our past webinars. So we'll go and start taking some questions here. Our first question is, how do you think the trend of aging boaters will impact the demand for slip rental at local marinas? Anyone who'd like to jump in on our panel on that question?
I can tell you what we've started to see, and it's in Chicago. It's kind of a combination of two different things. Obviously, we've got the largest municipally owned marina in the country, with 10,000 municipally owned slips or managed slips. We've got a little bit of an effect where we've seen a compression of some of the market. And slip availability has actually improved for a couple of different reasons. One, there was the build out of a new harbor, which had anticipated the 2016 Olympics coming in Chicago. So that was 1,000 slips that kind of fell in our lap. But I think the other thing that's impacted that negatively has been the recession, and that people have kind of sold off their boats, or as they retire or downsize, similar like in the housing market, if they scale down or they move over to a different type of boat or just move out of the area altogether, they've given up their slips. So it's created basically an availability surplus, I'm going to call it, which is good for the industry because younger people are able to get boats and then put them in a slip relatively quickly.
Great. So one question I had for the panel is, obviously this is something I think most people are aware of at this point, that we need to reach out to other audiences, but it can be a challenge. What are you guys finding as the biggest challenge in bringing a more diverse group of buyers to your dealerships?
This is Rob, the ethnic guy. It's hard for me to answer that because I'm in the middle of it. 90% of my market's not, so I'm not reaching out. I'm just doing my normal marketing to bring in normal people that we'd all do in our largest group of people that we service. So I'll turn that over to maybe Raul and Lou to help out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the comment, this is Raul, thanks Rob. The comment I would make is the toughest thing is probably not just talk about it, but create a plan and stick to it. I mean, many years ago, prior to joining the boating industry, I worked for Ryder Truck Rental for 10 years, and back then we were talking about Hispanic marketing. But you can talk about it for days if you're not actually, you put a plan together and put, whether it's a marketing plan or and one specific person in charge of that, nothing's going to happen. You'll keep talking about it for years to come. I mean, Rob, like you said, he's in that market, and you'll see some of the stores, even with the MarineMax, if they're in the Miami area, they'll do more. And some of the other areas will do more. Texas, of course, will do more to cater to that particular market. And there are some things that you can do to, like I talked about, and I think Lou did also, it's very simple to have that picture of the family, and that family can look, whether Hispanic, whatever. Sometimes I argue about what does a Hispanic look like nowadays, because there's so many different variations. And then the other thing I would say is if you are going to do it right. Make sure, for Rob, he's talking about the Mexican market. If you go to Miami, it's a different market. You're talking about the South Americans. You're talking about Central Americans, and they are a little bit different. So be careful with what language you use, the imagery you use. There are some things that are common. The familia is, there's no doubt about it, throughout all Hispanic, different countries that holds true. It's funny, I was laughing when Rob was talking about the families. You can be really mad at somebody, but when they have a big party, whether it's a birthday party or a baptism or whatever, everybody shows up, everybody loves each other again. And that's true. So, I mean, those are a few little comments I would make. So the hardest thing is going to be create a plan, stick to it, and have somebody that's going to lead the effort.
Just build it. This is Lou, building off of Raul's points and Rob's points. I think, one of the biggest things you got to look at, and there's some really easy fixing in a lot of the coastal markets. The top 5 markets for Hispanics are, and in no particular order by rank, are California, Texas, the New York, New Jersey area, Illinois, and then Florida. Those are your 5 largest Hispanic population markets. So anybody in those areas, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to not have that in as part of your business plan. But to Raul's point, coming from the Fortune 50 industry myself, big business was addressing diversification. I'm going to say 15, 20 years ago, and so we're a little behind the curve. So we're going to be playing catch up. But in that catch up, we have to do it right because, I guess you have to, it has to come across as sincere. And obviously, it's obvious it's a business transaction, but truly, and I like to see a lot of what Rob put up, because really, I mean, you have to make people feel welcome. And if you're in those markets, it's a no-brainer. But if you're not in those markets, it's definitely something to be aware of, because to Raul's point, what do Hispanics look like today? And there was a study released this week from Pew Research that talked about the impact of multiculturalism over the next decade, and that is truly the case. As you start to get more integration, there's going to be more multiculturalism, more bilingualism. I mean, my kids, we'll see. There's no guarantee they'll marry another Hispanic or another Mexican American. They'll marry whoever they feel, or they may not marry at all. According to the industry demographics. So that needs to be addressed as well.
Great. So we have a question here. One of our attendees asking, as we look at trying to track a wider range of nationalities and people in the boating, they wanted to know how the panel feels about peer-to-peer and boating clubs, and what you guys see as probably the role those can have in the industry.
This is Lou. I'll jump on that one. I think they've if proposed correctly, and I always say this, it can't be a zero-sum game, because I've seen examples of where it hasn't worked, where you kind of ramp up the exposure of the negatives in the boating of boat ownership at the expense of growing a particular business model. It needs to be a win-win. And we've used this the analogy of an on-ramp. There are various on-ramps. If you take housing as an example, as a parallel to boating, when you're first starting out, right out of college, you rent. And as you start to become more secure in your financial future and the likes, you may buy a condo, or you may buy a home if you're able to afford that. And then at the later end of your life cycle, you may go the other way again. You may go back from a home downsize into a condo, or into or another type of living arrangement. The same parallels exist in boating, where charter programs, peer-to-peer, and some of the fractional use programs can be used as starting points. I think ultimately the decision point for some of the boat buyers that we've seen come out of those business avenues has been, wanting more use of the sport. So they've bitten the bug so hard, they now want more spontaneity, and they want to be able to kind of take more trips and have more personalized uses of the vessel. And so I think that there's a good way for one of those aspects to help the other. But again, it can't be a zero-sum game where one benefits and the other loses, because that's not good for the industry as a whole.
Okay. We also have a question here. One of our attendees is wondering if you guys have advice on attracting millennials and catering to their mobile lifestyle.
I don't want to be the only one chatting here. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Go ahead. I think, for me, and I watch my kids nowadays, a couple of things, and some of that has to do with the manufacturers too, not just necessarily the dealers, but the boats are getting easier to operate. You're getting more toys on them. When I see my kids on the boat, they spend more time playing with the GPS or the fish finder than anything else. So I think it's a combination of making it easy, making sure that it's something they're gonna play with. Those are the toys. But I can also tell you that being out on the water changes their whole attitude. A lot of times they forget their phones. The only times they use their phones is so they can actually take a picture and put it on Instagram or whatever it is, or Snapchat. That's the only comment I can tell you, just from watching my kids now, and they're still boating and they prefer to do that than a lot of other activities out there than sitting in front of a computer. So I think you do have to talk to the manufacturers too, making sure that they take that into consideration. They have those entry-level boats and they make it easy.
I'll dovetail in there too. I think, like the car industry, you just make it easier for them to do what they love to do, and that's text and do all the electronic stuff. So the other thing that I've found that helps us a lot is be very clear on how they want to communicate, and communicate back with them the same way. So if you don't have permission to call them on the phone, don't do it, because that can turn them off. So communicate clearly on their terms, and I agree, get them out on the water, because the whole attitude, like for all of us, changes and it's always to the better out on the water. Get them out there.
All right, thank you. So another question here is, how does financing a boat vary by market? And I assume they mean kind of target audience, or does it? And what effective strategies and tactics can be used to address this and attract prospects to consider buying a boat?
This is Lou. That's a complex question. I think if you look at some of the things we know or we think we know about millennials or the younger buying demographic, they're averse to debt because some of them are already in a lot of debt because of their school loans and the like. So I think we're still going to see a little bit of a residual tail on their ability to, say, finance things. And I think that's where potentially peer-to-peer programs or the share economy is going to kind of kick in. On the purchasing end of it, I think manufacturers truly have to, and I've been harping on this for a while, they really have to address a usable platform that is affordable for them. I mean, if you look at when boating really took off, the inception of fiberglass boats in the 70s, the cost of a boat relative to the income of an individual was pretty achievable. And I understand, obviously, a lot of things have happened economically since then. Cost of raw goods has increased and the like. But we have to find a way to get people in. I mean, almost manufacturers have to look at entry-level platforms as sort of a loss leader almost. And I know that's a dirty word, but they need to look at that as, hey, this is an investment in the future. The current trend has seen models move above 40 and 45 feet. That basically tells me that we're only recirculating a lot of in certain buyer demographics. We're only recirculating their existing buyers. So you could equate that to pent-up demand. You could equate that to a lot of things. I think where we have to really kind of focus on is in the sub 30-foot market and make sure that there are opportunities for boaters to get out there. I don't see anybody really doing that right now, manufacturer-wise. There's nobody that I think is leading the industry right now in that capacity. All the large manufacturers are at fault for basically going bigger, and it's a two-tier economy, economic recovery right now. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that come back, and not necessarily a lot of the newer buyers come in. They're coming in through different avenues.
Anything, Rob or Raul, that you wanted to add to that?
This is Rob, and the question about financing is no different, I don't think, than any other age group. You either have good financing or you don't. And then the game there, of course, is to get the COAP link on there and continue finding one that would help out on the finance end of it. We really focus on entry-level boating to get people into the product and into our dealership. So we do have a so-called loss leader, but it's not so stripped down that it turns them off. So once we get them and we allow them to participate and be a part of our group and experience our servicing and our follow-up and the sort of things that we do, we give them no reason to go anywhere else with a good product. So, yes, all we need to do is get them in the door, get them touching our product and our services, and we feel like we have a long-term loyal customer. And more important than that, again, is that third-party endorsement. We call it wowing the customer. When we wow a customer, they walk away or drive away in their mind maybe saying, wow, I can't believe they did that. That customer will go tell his friends. If you just give them what they ask for, there's no reason to talk about it. So our goal here is to wow the customer every time we touch them or speak with them. Is it hard? Yes. If you do it consistently, does it pay big dividends? Absolutely. Because you want the loyal army of advocates out there all the time bringing people to you. We have people come in here oftentimes and they just say, they just told me to come here and buy the boat here. That simple. So again, wowing the customer of any age, it goes back to the basics of the things that we all want as a human being. Focus on them, make them happen.
Okay. One of our audience members, this is more of a tip than a question, but it said something people may want to take a look at is a great textbook he recommends called Hispanic Marketing, Connecting with the New Latino Customer. Says it's helped him a lot in his business. I think it's a great opportunity as well to mention some of the great resources available, as Lou said in his presentation, from the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation. They've been doing some great work research and outreach to the Hispanic market. You can find out a lot more about that on their website, which is takemefishing.org. With that in mind, from our panel, any other resources you would suggest that people look at as they're trying to reach out to other buyer groups?
I'll put in a plug here. So the Recreational Boating Leadership Council was formed, I don't know, about 3 years ago, as a kind of a consortium of various different industry stakeholders. And there's a Facebook page where we put a variety of different tips, recommendations, articles that dealers can kind of go to, or business marine industry professionals can go to. We have a Facebook page. It's Recreational Boating Leadership Council, RBLC. You can look for that on Facebook, and there's a lot of different articles that you can kind of look at and glean there. RBFF, as Jonathan has kind of put up, is a very, very large fountain of knowledge with regards to some of the landmark work that they've done. So those are two.
So moving on to another question, what role do you guys see online marketplaces playing, or they could take in driving younger shoppers to dealerships?
Is there any other way to engage customers right now? I mean, it's pretty much all online. I think boat shows are effective, but I think how you get people to boat shows is still using the online or the e-push marketing. So I think when you look at some of the online markets, they're very important. I think touching base on, I think it was Rob that mentioned this, you just have to be able to be clear on communicating with them. One, it's got to be timely. Two, it's got to be pertinent. And three, it's got to be in their terms. So if it's email that they want to be contacted by, great. If sometimes it's a text. If they'll reach out to you, they'll get your information and they'll text you. So you just got to have to engage them in the format that they want. So I think the online market is kind of where it's at right now.
At least to provide the education piece, all the different options. I think still, from a boating point of view, is one of those where getting out in the water is going to beat any website that you have out there. So provide some of the the information so they can do the research. They can build some interest, but getting out in the water is going to be number one for me.
Just
Definitely.
a comment on Lou's point, and is there any other advertising than on the internet? It's key, of course, and a thought to remind us all is that when they walk in your dealership, sometimes they're testing us because they already know the answer to the question. So be sure your sales staff is well educated on not only your product line, what it does as performance features, but the competitors as well. Because what you don't want to break down at any time in the conversation with the prospects is that trust and respect, because they're testing you, because they know, and they've been on it all night, all hours of the night and morning. So when they finally decide to come in to look at it, just be prepared to keep that sense of, and when you don't know, of course, you tell them you don't know, and you're going to find out for them. So that's my 2 bits on that.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we are right about out of time at 2 o'clock Central here. So on behalf of Boating Industry and the Top 100 Leadership Alliance, thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you to our panel for some great insights into reaching new markets. Have a good day, everyone.